I think Yusef, you've been out 8 years now, I believe, 8, 9 years now.
Yes, 8 years.
And Shaka, you're celebrating 10 years free in
man.
in a couple of days.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's 10 years, bro. It's been an incredible journey. Thank you. It's been an incredible journey. As soon as I walked out of prison, the first thing I did was sold a book out the trunk of the car. And I've been selling books for 10 years straight. I self-published, published my first book from prison. I taught myself business. I knew coming from the streets hustling, I was one of the best in that culture. And I just flipped everything I knew from that into something legitimate. And, I've been selling books for 10 years straight, man. So it's been an amazing journey. I'm really basking in it. I'm taking it in. I've accomplished a lot over the 10 years. I taught at the University of Michigan. I'm an MIT Director's Fellow. I have a couple of TED Talks up now that both have over 1 million views talking about these issues. I've won Manchester University, Innovator of the Year and NAACP Award, for Men's of Courage Award. And it's largely because of the commitment I made to community and that my work has to be in service to not only the community out here, but to the brothers and sisters inside prison. And so, I'm celebrating starting after tomorrow. I'm taking my last day of work tomorrow and I'm turning up. You know what I mean?
I love that, man. I love that, man. Yeah. You guys have both been doing some great things with the books or whatever. Shaka, once again, the TED Talks. You've been hanging out with Oprah. Oprah called one of your, what do you call those things that she does? The Sunday Conversations, one of the best that she's ever done in her life, man, in her career and her life. But you've been out once again 8 and 10 years. And Donny, this is crazy because I had to ask this question. Even though you're out and you're technically free, as Black men in this country, do you feel free?
That's a deep question, man. And I don't. And I mean, like I said, until we get to that place where we're able to be truly empowered, and we're able to empower others, empower our people, I still can't pass the live scan. I still, I had an opportunity to teach at a high school, African-American youth at a high school. It was like a special club that they had going on. They wanted an African-American male in there teaching that class. But as soon as they ran the live scan, I was barred from that. So, I was barred from that opportunity to teach youngsters. This was like
for the people that don't realize, what is the live scan? Explain the live scan.
So a live scan is where they run your fingerprints and everything from your past is going to come up. Federal and state, any kind of crime, you committed, from stealing a pack of chewing bubble gum. I remember I stole a pack of big red bubble gum when I was like 8 years old from Clark's drugstore. They don't even call it Clark's no more. They call it CVS.
Yes.
And all that stuff come up. You know what I'm saying? So.
Wow.
I give you a couple of experiences that happened recently, right? So, I've been doing, activist-based work this whole 10 years I've been out. So when the protests started happening, I'm watching my friends on television, on the front lines, and, people were blowing me up. Yo, are you going to the protest? And what none of them are thinking about is like, I got 2 felonies.
Right.
I can go out and take a risk of protesting because all it takes is for me to get arrested and for an officer to say he assaulted me. And then I'm a habitual offender, or as they say in California, 3 strikes, right?
Right.
And then, just living here in LA, I live in a neighborhood and, I walked out the other day in the midst of the protest and I was getting some on my mailbox and, some of my neighbors was walking past and I had this moment where I'm like, what if they thought I was stealing? And they just called the police,
Wow.
But even deeper than that, there's over 40,000 collateral consequences of having a felony. You can't get employment, you can't get apartments. So those are things we had to navigate. Like I travel for a living. I speak on the road, and I can't get TSA, even though I pay more taxes than probably 98% of American society. I try to get home insurance for my home, and insurance people was like, because of your felony, we don't feel comfortable insuring you. So there's so many different things that we deal with in our day-to-day life, and we have to navigate that people aren't thinking about when it comes to that. So it's freedom to me, my spirit is free, my mind is free. And I wake up with the intentions of living my life based on my terms. So in that way, I'm super free, right? I can do what I want to do. Like I work how I want to work, and I figure that pathway out. But that's not everybody's reality coming out of prison. It's all these barriers that we're constantly overcoming. And I talk about these things through my writing because I want to remove those barriers for the next brother and sister coming behind me.
Absolutely. And, same with me. And the way I've been able to give it back is through the organizations that I've built, nonprofit, the Timeless Group. And then we got a S Corporation, which is becoming an investment group. So I'm creating an investment group with former lifers, people that serve life in prison. We're now buying properties, and renting out or leasing properties that we use for our nonprofit. That is actually giving people jobs. We actually got like 65 employees now. 85%, 90% of them are formerly incarcerated folks. People that came to us with ankle monitors that got jobs as case managers, now program managers and directors, making good money. A couple of homeowners now from amongst us. Several of us are homeowners now. And that's how I'm giving it back, right? In the community, in the hoods that I destroyed in the 80s, in the early 90s, are the very hoods that I'm in right now, providing housing and employment. So, that's where it's at, as well as a security company. We have a security as well. So we provide security at several housing, homeless shelters and things like that. So we've been finding ways to get back in that way. And it's been having a real good impact on our community. So.
Well, that's why it's important, Donny, for not, when people make a mistake, it's important not to just throw them away, man. If they went in, did their time, and got rehabilitated, man, they can still make a difference in society. Now, you talk about the reforms and things you can't do, like some of the jobs you can't have. You can't work with kids, which I think you guys should be able to talk to kids more than anybody to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that you do. So if you could change any of the reform policies when it comes to, coming out of prison and some of the rights that you can have, what are some of those things that you would do?
So I've worked a lot on a lot of these issues. One, I'm always trying to remove the barriers, especially around housing. When you get out of prison and you coming out of this environment where you've been forced housing, forced to sell with somebody, like you need that peace of mind of somewhere you can lay your head without worrying about it being some kind of hookup or, you have to stay with somebody. So I think that's super important. I do a lot of work in Silicon Valley, and I've been working to really open up employment opportunities in this industry. Because it's such an entrepreneurial-driven business model. And I think it's a great deal of talent coming out of prison, and people should be given an opportunity to prove themselves. So I'm constantly in conversations with entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, policymakers, and I do a lot of work on a national level around these issues. And to Yusef's point, our organization that I used to be the executive director of, we employ about 68% of system-impacted people. And it's for that reason, like we're all about tearing these barriers down and doing the work. And we just need our people to understand like what their role is in helping us get these bills passed and paying attention to the work that's actually being done.
Yeah, it comes up here, man. We got a viewer comment, Latanya Hunt. Prison reform is extremely important. African-American people are convicted for senseless crimes. Education, spiritual rehabilitation, I think helps them regain value in society. How much, not just when you're in prison, but I'm talking about educating yourself before you go to prison or after you get out to educate some of these brothers. Now, how important is education, not only for prison reform or former prisoners or whatnot, but just in general when it comes to dealing with racism?
Oh, man, that was one of the biggest ways, that was the biggest tool that I used when I was getting a lot of other Crips and Bloods to come up out of those lifestyles. I was actually teaching history, a Black history class in the chapels. I used to use the chapels in the prison to invite the Crips and the Bloods over to come learn about who they are, so they can get past this self-hate that they had going on amongst themselves. They had to understand what it was and what their history, that was the enrichment aspect of it all. The education, learning math and science and all those things were important too, and we had to do that. But when we started tapping into the history and people started learning that they were more than just slaves. What about before slavery, right? People were just coming up out of it. You see people the veils just started being removed from the eyes of so many of our people when we start teaching that. So education is key. And a lot of these youngsters that's running around right now, they don't know these things. So we have to educate them on a lot of different levels. And financial literacy is another area that we have to be educating our folks around. So.
And I want to give a shout out to the women too. We got a lot of women on the front lines doing their thing. Like I just mentioned,
yes.
Cookie Pope, also known as Gwen Black. She got incarcerated, but she got sentenced to 69 years, got herself out, and now she's starting to be a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we got a lot of women on the front line out there, and I want to have her on probably next week to tell her story. And plus, she's helping to get my man and Tory out of prison. You know what I mean?
That's
so
right.
you know, we all got to help each other. And like my man said, Yusef was saying about giving back and having job, supplying jobs for the hood, far as property and all that. Because I was just down there today in the hood, and I was looking at all the gentrification, and I was like, yo,
oh yeah,
you know, y'all buying all this, you know what I mean? But we should be buying all this, you know what I mean? They're locking up the jungle, they're buying everything in the jungle, they're buying everything off King, and we have to supply our dollars, put our dollars back in the hood so we can own this. So we can't say, you know what I mean, this is gentrification and all that, because we can own that too. You know what I'm saying? So we have to put our money where our mouth is, because that's what I'm going to. That's why I was down there. I'm like, I'm going to buy me some bills and I'm going to employ my people, because I don't like to see what I'm seeing right now. You know what I'm saying? And it's a game they're playing to own all this to get us out of South Central Los Angeles, because that's some of the richest land right there. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta, you know, I like what you're doing, Yusef. We gotta keep on doing that and tell our people.
It's out there.
People, yes, we gotta tell our people, yo, we can do this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
But you know what? Actually, as you're saying that, it just makes me think about why we haven't done it. And to your point about education, what I realized about our educational system is completely dysfunctional and disadvantageous for us to be educated within a white system that doesn't honor the historical context of who we are. And so for me, I think about how do we educate the whole human being, right? So I have an 8-year-old son, and we educate him about food he puts in his body. We educate him about, you know, mental health and well-being, financial well-being, and then Black history. Like, it took for me to be in prison to learn about history, you know, and through a lens that was honorable, that honored who I was. It wasn't just like this shortened version of it, you know. And so what I realized through that process is, psychologically, what slavery has done to our people is it stripped us of a true sense of our self-worth and our value. Meanwhile, other people inherently see our value and they exploit that for their financial means, right? So you think about, you know, the field of entertainment, you think about, you know, these workers who are essential workers, and why COVID is spread so much is because it's our people that's actually doing the jobs, because other people see monetary value in them as a labor force. And so we have to just shift that dynamic from being, you know, a labor force to actually entrepreneurship, and really understanding our value as investors, and understand our cultural contributions in terms of ownership. You know, when I came out, I was very intentional about self-publishing and starting off myself, because I knew my value. All the things I accomplished, I wrote those things down. Like, this is what I want to accomplish when I get out. And it became a roadmap, because I saw that other people had done it. And they done it because they believed they were worthy of it. And once we start believing that we're worthy of something, there's nothing in the world that can deny us from attaining it. And so when I think of education, I think of it through that 360 view of, I'm going to educate all of the parts of who I am, so that I can actually, and, you know, continue to educate all the parts of my community in a meaningful way.
And we got, and like Shaka just said, economics is key. You know, we have to really start teaching our kids about economics, good credit, and all that, so we can go out there and buy them apartment buildings and those strip malls and all that. Because that's what I teach mine. Economics is power. You know, I mean, a property is power, and you can do a lot with that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes my mind be thinking fast and I can fucking talk. You know, I'll be getting frustrated.
You're good, baby. You're good.
I think also about the prison reform piece, you know, Mike, that you originally talked about. If you look at some of the German models, you know, the European models of prison reform, and see how they deal with their inmate population. You know, they go to college, and you know, they even give furloughs on a regular basis. They go home to their families and come back to prison. You know, they have like a trust system. And I mean, they did a study on it a few years back, and they showed that the outcome.
I actually went on that study. I was in Germany over there.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, because there's some folks that came back and reported on it, talked about it in the Board of Supervisors meeting. And I mean, we have to look at some of those, because there will always be prisons. But I think in terms of reform, those are some of the reforms that they should look at, you know, that study. Yes.
I want to talk about that reform. Do they really want to reform? Do they really want to rehabilitate you? Because Shaka brought up a key word, and that's labor. and it's free labor. So we'll talk about that, the money that goes into the prison, having a great conversation right here on the Mike and Donny Show on Fox Soul. We'll be right back.